several significant moves happened today that prove that Israel and the United States are only talking, being loud mouths and threatening with nothing substantial on the ground. The Israelis allowed entry of more than 158 trucks to North Gaza, a significant number on its own, to the northern part of Gaza, only with temporary housing equipment for the population. In addition, Qatar added 15 million liters of fuel to be sent to Gaza in the short-coming period. These two moves on their own indicate that Israel started to implement the demands of the Palestinian resistance led by Hamas, not only to compensate for the shortage that they had, but to comply moving forward when it comes to the entry of basic necessities in Gaza as agreed upon with the ceasefire agreement. Hamas, a couple of days back, said that they are suspending the release of Israeli prisoners of war on Saturday because of lack of Israeli compliance when it comes to the humanitarian clauses of the ceasefire agreement. They said that Israel is not sending enough tents, hardly any tents actually, no mobile housing whatsoever, only a fraction of the fuel necessary, medical supplies and heavy equipment required to remove the rubble and to evacuate the bodies and start the rebuilding process. Now, clearly, and after intense talks coming between the mediators in Israel, these things started to happen on the ground. However, all of that is happening, but the countries, the Arab countries and the Muslim countries as well, and international countries too, are not taking the talks of Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump lightly. The important thing that's happening here is two moves being conducted and taken by Egypt and Iran. Egypt is leading an Arab front, Iran is leading a Muslim front, and we're going to get to the Israeli pressure and statements that came, which led to the Israeli submission and bowing down as well to the Palestinian resistance when it comes to the aid. We're going to start off with Egypt. For the past few days, Donald Trump has been escalating the tone, has been raising the tone with Egypt and with Jordan too, threatening with sanctions, threatening to cut the aid, but Egypt is not backing down. They received a harsh message from Egypt, the Trump administration, that they will not be coordinating with them. The Egyptian president will not be going to the United States so long as the displacement option is on the table when it comes to Donald Trump. This is a red line. Sinai is a red line, displacement is a red line, and Egypt is a red line. And it's not only talks. Egypt, apart from the drills that they've had yesterday and published next to the Rafah borders, now the Egyptian defense minister ordered military brigades in the Sinai and Rafah regions to maintain the highest level of readiness for war. That was published on the Israeli radio. And also, the commander of the 3rd Field Army, Hisham Shindi, affirmed the commitment of the 3rd Field Army's fighters to achieving the highest levels of efficiency and combat readiness, prepared to take all tasks to go into war regardless of the sacrifices required. These people are prepared for war and they're not bowing down to the pressure of the United States. This is coming at a military level alongside all of the other moves of Egypt when it comes to military and security. However, they're also having very intense diplomatic moves. The diplomatic moves are intended to cover all bases and not give the Trump administration any argument whatsoever when it comes to Gaza. We spoke about the summit that's being prepared to take place in Egypt with all of the Arab states participating. However, Egypt is not finding that enough. They have another summit that's due to take place with key players within the Arab states. That's intended to prepare for the coming Arab summit, and it's also following a previous summit during which the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, the Palestinian Authority and Qatar participated in, outright rejecting the plan of Donald Trump. The Trump administration, although they're having all of these threats against Egypt and the sanctions, that means nothing for them, because with the aid, 1.3 billion, you have 110 approximately million Egyptians. For every Egyptian pays $11 to the state a year, you're making up the US aid. It's insignificant. That amount hasn't changed in about 40, 50 years. It was something before, it's nothing now. especially the requirements of Egypt, for the size of Egypt, and for the military demands of Egypt. And also, even if Donald Trump has sanctions, they have backdoors. Egypt is a BRICS member. Egypt has backdoors. And these sanctions, if anything, these US sanctions, they elevated the countries that were subject to them. They made them become more creative, more self-reliant, more productive, and create more alliances. And that's not going to be a problem for Egypt. So Egypt is prepared on the military level, on the political level, and on the economic level as well, in addition to bringing proposals. Trump said, what's your proposal? Hey, we have proposals. They're gonna close every argument. The Egyptian side declared that they're gonna have 2 proposals to rebuild Gaza within 3 to 5 years, with all of the Palestinian population remaining there. All of the Palestinian population remaining there with the full support of Egypt. Egyptian engineers, Egyptian planning, everything is sorted. 3 to 5 years, everything's going to be sorted. And we know exactly how much that's going to cost. With more countries, of course, calling for Israel to pay. The Turkish president saying Israel has to pay, and other countries too are applying pressure for participation. You destroyed it, you have to pay it. But that's a different story. When it comes to Iran, Iran is leading the Muslim front. The Iranians have been on massive campaigns lately, with the Iranian foreign minister visiting 10 significant countries when it comes to the Muslim world, including Egypt, of course, but also Turkey, Pakistan, Tunisia, Algeria, Malaysia, and the necessity, they were stressing the necessity to have a united Muslim front to confront the Trump position. And the Hamas delegation that was in Iran several days back, also to ensure a united Palestinian front when it comes to that plan of Donald Trump and how to reject it. The senior delegation of Hamas, led by Ismail Darwish, who is the head of the Shura Council of Hamas, they met with the supreme leader, and some of them met with the Iranian president as well. Iran believes this cannot be done, according to reports in Iran, with refusal of these countries. If all of these countries refuse the proposal of Donald Trump and they have decisive action planned, nothing can happen. And if we're arguing if Donald Trump is serious, it's a separate story. But these people, these countries, are taking the statement seriously, and they should. However, without disclosure of the movements that they will be taking. And that's something very important, because they shouldn't be declaring up until they come and have a strong position to confront this US-Israeli arrogance. Iran is also conducting military drills with Oman for a potential action near the Hormuz Strait. Okay, Iran, several weeks back, they had drills on their own in the Hormuz Strait. During the genocide, they had drills with China and Russia too, with other observers as well. But recently they had drills in the Hormuz Strait, during which they were forcing everyone to comply. There were hostile countries' ships. They were dictating their moves in the Hormuz Strait. This coordination with Oman, is intended to prepare for something that might escalate even further. And the United States is not even saying anything about that. Why are they not saying anything about that? And why did they not mention anything about the UAV that Iran took down over the Gulf approximately a week ago? These are messages being sent from Iran without any response. And these moves coming from Iran against potentially U.S. drone, this was suspected to be U.S. drone, although of course U.S. did not admit, indicate that the U.S. is not actually intending to have any war. What war? It's only barking. And so is Israel. They're having all of these threats against Egypt, for example. Is the Israeli army prepared to fight with an Egyptian army? No way. These people are exhausted. They're done. They're roasted. They've been roasted by armed men with flip-flops. So what are they going to do with the Egyptian army? They're the biggest army in the region. Not only that, so we have Egypt ready on a political, military, and economic level. Iran ready and preparing on a military and a political level as well. Economically, they're sorted too. So both of these countries leading the Arab and Muslim fronts when it comes to confronting the position of Donald Trump and his grotesque, abhorrent proposition. But there were also other statements too. China saying Gaza belongs to the Palestinians. North Korea even. No, hold on, this is a threat. And this is theft, saying North Korea, raising the bar as well. All of that indicates that Trump made himself very lonely, alone. This guy secluded completely. He's making himself an alien globally, and it's so shameful. It's embarrassing what Donald Trump is doing. All the talk about make America great again, America first. So far, we've seen nothing but Zion first and bootlicking for Benjamin Netanyahu. In the meantime, the things that led to this Israeli bowing down to the Palestinian resistance came after several things happened in Israel. There were, of course, massive protests and unprecedented police brutality against the protesters in Israel, blaming Benjamin Netanyahu, telling him, you're going to kill everyone if you continue, and it's your fault. You were responsible for the 7th of October. Get us out of this mess and continue with the deal. And the police dragging the people in the streets, imprisoning, beating people up. But there were also statements coming from senior, sensitive officials inside of Israel in very sensitive positions, very senior positions, warning and taking a position and actually saying, hold on a second, Hamas are right, we are breaching. So the first one is New York Times quoted an Israeli official and mediators. They said, Hamas is right. And we know the New York Times, by the way, and their alliances. Hamas is right, they said, that Israel did not fulfill its obligations under the ceasefire agreement. These are people acting now. This is how serious this is. Then the former Mossad prisoners and missing persons division chief, Rami Igra also came up with very interesting statements saying that this Donald Trump plan is totally unrealistic and unsubstantiated. Why is it unsubstantiated? He said because if Trump offered Tel Aviv residents green cards, their response to immigration would be greater than the Gaza residents. You don't understand the Gaza residents. These people, he called them, these are jihadist people. They stick to their ground. They believe fully in their right. But it's the Israelis who will leave. If they offered green cards to Tel Avivians, they would be leaving, not the Gazan populations. And that Donald Trump and his statements are completely disconnected from reality. Totally disconnected and delusional, these statements. You're talking about a senior person who dealt with previous cases of missing or kidnapped Israelis. And it wasn't only him. Who else made statements? The Shabak head. What did he say? He said, he calls for the cabinet to give mediators the opportunity to solve issues with Hamas. And we're clearly seeing them solved. They are being solved. 150 ATROCs to North Gaza. By the way, again, this is a very significant number for North Gaza. 150 trucks, they were barely giving them water the other day. Even with all of the aid in, they were making everything difficult. But after the Netzarim was liberated, more things came in, but Israel still stopped the main things to do with like tents and for people to have at least somewhere, at least a shelter, somewhere to protect them from the rain, at least, if not from the cold, right? Some people were dying from the cold, yet still sticking to their land. And it wasn't only the head of the Shabak. The IDF Broadcasting Authority stated, based on an official in Israel, who they did not say if he was like in the politics or the military, but the Israeli army broadcasting, they said, hold on a second, Netanyahu is saying all hell, yeah, with Trump, he's, on the bandwagon with Donald Trump and this arrogance, that, yeah, we'll go on an all-scale war with Gaza, and this cat saying that, yeah, prepare for full deployment, we're going to go back, we're going to smack Hamas and what have you. They're saying returning all of the prisoners with military action became a complicated and almost impossible thing. All of these statements are coming from Israelis in these positions, these figures, totally contradicting the moves of Benjamin Netanyahu and of course his radical allies, completely opposing them. These people want to continue with the ceasefire, and they're saying, yes, we are wrong, and yes, we should give more aid to Hamas as we agreed upon in the ceasefire agreement, which is clearly happening. 158 trucks, exceptional number, temporary housing or shelters. Qatar declaring them sending 15 million liters of fuel in the short coming period, again today, and that wouldn't be unless it's coordinated with Israel, because they would have to coordinate with Israel to get them into Gaza, meaning it's Israel bowing down again with the fuel alongside the shelters as well. And all of that came after intense talks. So whilst we had Trump barking and Netanyahu barking, they were still talking. It was all show for the media and pretending, having this white boy and bully approach. Okay, this is proving that Israel is bowing down to the demands of the Hamas, who are simply asking Israel to comply. Hamas are not asking Israel to do anything extraordinary. The only reason they've done this move is only to tell Israel, comply. That's it. Comply and compensate for the shortage and breaches of the same ceasefire agreement that you signed and went against. Over 470 Israeli breaches. And the numbers are a clear indication of this. The numbers of aid that's going in with the level of trucks, 15 million liters of fuel, all of these things are very important. In the meantime, they're lowering the tone in Israel. And this is also meaning that the Trump administration, Trump and his clowns, they're still barking, indicating that this is a show again. Nothing but loudmouths trying to portray an image of strength and victory that does not and will not exist. However, these statements are still being taken seriously by everyone, by the Palestinians, by the Arabs, by the Muslim world, everyone globally. Everyone is seeing this shameful show, this shameful circus. With these threats completely being unsubstantiated due to the lack of backing and evidence to support them, Trump is trying to play business in politics, start high to try and get to where he wants. However, even what he wants, which could potentially be US control over Gaza for financial gain and for oil and gas exploration coordination with Israel off the Gaza shores, even that would be something that's not necessarily going to be accepted anyway. Even if he's trying to reach that without the displacement, by the way, and he's using the displacement as a start high, right, to get to where I want. Even if that is the aim of Donald Trump, having America controlling Gaza, buying Gaza, whatever it is, and displacing the Palestinians is not necessarily something he wants, despite him repeatedly saying that. And notwithstanding, of course, the severity and grotesqueness of such preposterous propositions, this simply will not be going ahead. What we're seeing now is Israel backing down, submitting to the demands of Hamas. All of these moves could be indicating that we are going to continue this ceasefire, even with all of this talk of Donald Trump and of the escalation. The next few days will show us exactly where things are going. Either we will see more of this aid coming in or more light tones coming from Israel, Trump pretending that he made Hamas submit, or Israel portraying Hamas as, oh no, now they're going to release them again. Because from an Israeli perspective, by the way, now in Israeli mainstream media, they're not really bothered about the number that they're going to release on Saturday, so long as someone's being released. This is the concern. Now, Hamas petrified them. Hamas made everyone scared in Israel. Hold on. Is it going to stop or what? But from an Israeli perspective, neither Netanyahu nor anyone else said anything about releasing all of the prisoners, like Donald Trump, by the way. They said prisoners. And Hamas, from their perspective, said we're complying with the agreement. We're complying with the agreement so long as the enemy does. The next few days will show if this is headed towards an escalation or not. However, the moves that are being taken both by Egypt and by Iran, by other, of course, international countries, including this primarily the Arab Muslim world, will still be going ahead. And these moves will be important to send a message to both Donald Trump and Netanyahu that any ambitions and any dreams in Gaza will be completely eliminated.